Hello guys, and welcome back to the channel, where today you're joining me in a VW Golf Alltrack. It's been a long while since I've actually done a video, and the reason is I've been ever so busy, and we've had some real good developments within the business, which I'm actually going to do a separate video on. It's all very good news, don't get me wrong. It's all to do with my showrooms. We've managed to get another showroom, which I think is a big step up for Condor vehicle sales, and yeah, that explains my lack of YouTube presence as of late. But as always, appreciate you guys watching the videos and subscribing to the channel and everything. It really does mean a lot. And today you're joining me in a VW Golf Alltrack. They're a bit of a rare car. Some people have never heard of them. Some people have heard of them but not really seen them. Just to give some kind of context as to how rare they are. I mean, it's not like it's like a performance supercar or anything like that, but there's only 8 other Alltracks for sale as I sit here today on Auto Trader nationwide. So to me, that constitutes that it's a pretty rare car, and I'm sure you'd agree. But I'm not sure as to why there aren't that many of them on the road. I mean, obviously it's the VW equivalent of the Audi all-road car, and the all-roads are quite, they're quite common, certainly around this area, which is relatively rural down in the countryside. So yeah, it's surprising to me that there aren't more of them around. Maybe it's because instead of this you would just go and buy an Audi all-road maybe. But this here is a very pleasant car. I've been using it for the last couple of days. I've got a Land Rover, which is in the garage at the moment. I just wanted to get a full service carried out, give it a good flush through on the coolant and antifreeze, engine and gearbox and everything like that. So out of action for a couple of days. I've jumped into this one here just to kind of see what it's like. And obviously I always have the estate side of things where I can, because I've got the dog, so he goes into the boot. And I've got to say, I've really enjoyed driving it. It's not what I thought it was going to be, because I don't really know what I was expecting. I think I was just expecting another ordinary estate car, which this is. It's still an estate, but it's obviously the Alltrack, so it rides slightly higher than what the ordinary Golf would, by about 10-12 mil. This one here has obviously the trimmings on the wheel arches along the back and the front bumper, and obviously down the side panels, so it looks slightly different as well. And it also has the 2-litre TDI engine, which is a 4-cylinder turbo diesel. That's paired with this 7-speed DSG gearbox. It's obviously a very common pairing amongst the VW and Audi group, and I really quite like it. I think it's a really responsive gearbox. The only thing I would say is I probably prefer the 8-speed ZF gearbox, which BMW use, only because I think that gearbox is phenomenal. I think it's a little bit unmatched, and I think it's a little bit more intuitive, but this is certainly no slouch, and it's very, very easy to live with, which of course is what we want from an everyday kind of Golf estate car. I quite like the fact that it's a little bit of a rarity, that you don't see many of them on the road, which is quite a nice thing. I mean, this one here is finished in a Tornado Red on the exterior, which is a non-metallic paint. I don't mind it. I've just sold a Golf GTD in the same paint, and I think that looked great as well. And it's got on the inside, it's like an Alcantara on the bolsters, and like an easy wipe cloth on the interior, on the middle sections. I guess that's kind of more going towards what it's kind of designed for, which is more the agricultural use, or someone who's going to be getting in and out of it a little bit dirty. So it does wipe clean. I would have quite liked to have the leather. Leather was an option that you could have had, but the leather I think is much more of an easy wipe clean. So yeah, maybe that's the only thing I would change, but I quite like it. It's got these 17-inch alloy wheels, and it is also running on, at the moment, these Michelin winter tyres. So you do get a little bit of road noise with any winter tyre in pretty much any car. So I think if you was to have just your ordinary everyday tyre that you would get on an ordinary Golf, that you wouldn't necessarily have that noise. So but it's certainly very livable. The cabin is still very quiet. It's got all the creature comforts that you would want. I mean, this one here's got a few extras over and above what comes as standard from the factory, but I think that's very, very typical German manufacturers, isn't it? Anything that you want kind of is an additional extras these days. Even things like the electric heated power fold mirrors, to have that power fold function is an additional extra, and you think nowadays that would kind of come as standard on every car. But this is a 2016 66 plate VW Golf. They were introduced in 2015, ran right up until 2019 on this era. and I've not seen any brand new Golfs with the Alltrack variant. So someone could correct me. I'm not sure if they still do it. But it's also got, on this particular one, the upgraded Xenon headlights, which are really quite smart looking from the front anyway. And of course, when they're automatic, all it does is measures the light's intensity before it turns itself on. Of course, they'll be on today because it's miserable weather, even though we're in the middle of a British summer, July. But as you can probably hear through the mic, it is absolutely lashing it down here. But those auto Xenon lights are very good, and they have the LED running lights when they're not on. So again, looks really quite smart with the presence on the road. And of course, automatic wipers, which are trying very hard to keep all of this heavy shower off at the moment. The multifunctional steering wheel is really quite smart. I'm a bit of a minimalistic person myself, and I think they do it really well. It's got this like gloss black trim on the surrounds of the buttons, and it's all very intuitive, all very easy to use. The right hand side here, you go through your menu on your dash, and it gives you quite a lot of information, so driving data, assist systems, navigation instructions, your audio, which you can also have your Bluetooth audio streaming through, of course your telephone and your vehicle status. So very easy to use, very intuitive, and a nice solid kind of, I mean, it's what they say with the VW adverts, isn't it? They have various different like noises, but it's not a Golf. Well, this is a Golf, and it does feel very solid. The buttons, they've not worn in any way, and there's no nasty creaking or anything like that. They all click nicely, which is a very strange sentence for me to say. But then on the left-hand side, this particular one also has the adaptive cruise control. That did come as standard on a few of the Golfs, to be fair to them. So on the GTD and the GTI, you always came with the adaptive cruise. It's very easy to use. So essentially, you turn it on, you set your distance to the vehicle that's in front of you, and you don't obviously then have to do anything with reference to pedals. It'll keep you at that distance, it'll slow you down, it'll speed you up when they speed up, but of course there is that capped speed limit. So if you've set your speed to be 50 mile an hour and the car in front of you starts doing 60, 65, 70, you're not then of course going to follow it all the way up to 70 because you capped your cruise control at 50. Quite intuitive, but quite easy to talk about. So, you know, it is a nice thing to have. Some people don't prefer it, and to be honest, it's not something that I'd really shout for if I was to be designing my own car, only because I've found it sometimes that if you're on a dual carriageway or something like that, you've set your cruise control to 70, you're approaching a vehicle with the option to overtake, and so you with ordinary cruise control, you continue to do 70, you get to the back of the vehicle, obviously with plenty of space, you take your turn and you go for the overtake. And the only thing with cruise control, because of course it's picking up on the car in front of you, it's then starting to match your speed. So when you're ordinarily catching up to then go for the overtake, this is slowing you down because it just thinks that you're following the car in front. So it really does make sense that it does that, because obviously that's what it's trying to do. It's trying to adapt your cruise. But ordinarily, it's not something I'd necessarily shout about, because I quite like the fact that if I've set my cruise at 70 and I'm approaching something that's doing 60, a lorry or whatever it might be, I don't have to do anything. I can just go for the overtake and continue that speed at 70. But anyway, it's nice that it's got it. It's a cool thing to have. The stalks, again, very well built. It's a nice solid click as you go through. Nothing creaks, all really good press and everything like that. All a good German build quality, which is what you want. It also has the upgraded information system in this, or the media system, whichever way you want to call it. So it's a slightly bigger screen. It's a nice crisp and clear display on there as well. It's also got this like sensory bar down at the bottom, so even when you go towards the screen without touching it, it brings up an additional menu. So for example, we're on the navigation screen at the moment. I'm just looking at the map. I go to put my finger towards it, it then brings up the menu, whether I want to be putting in a new destination, previous destination, a point of interest, whatever it may be on that particular screen. It'll do the same on radio as well. So when I'm on the radio screen, bring the finger up to it and it'll then ask you if you want to go through your station list. It's quite a neat thing to have. Again, doesn't necessarily become a deciding factor, but I think it is quite clever. I think it is quite smart. Dual climate controls down here, again, very, very easy to use. Got your fan control in the centre. your temperature controls on the outside and your direction control at the top. I mean, what more could you want? I quite like the fact, again, I've said it in previous videos, that it is physical buttons and twisty dials, so you know exactly what you're doing. You haven't got to distract yourself too much. It's nice and easy. DSG gearbox, again, very easy to use, there's no doubt about that. You've got your ordinary automatic transmission control, so to speak. You do also have a sport mode, so I can knock it down again. It'll put it into a sport mode. It's just dropped my gear and it'll hold the revs higher. But on today's drive, of course, I just want to be in your ordinary automatic. You can also nip it across and put it into a manual mode, so you can hear me changing the gears, and then you've also got your paddle shift as well on here, so quite a nice way to have it. Again, it's more a gimmick than anything. I've never really had to put a car into manual mode. Maybe if I was towing and I'm coming to a particular hill which I know is quite steep, I might ask it to hold it back on its gears. Other than that though, easy to use. What I do like about this, it has the engine mode buttons, or the different driving mode selections. So of course we're in normal at the moment. You can go into eco mode, sport and individual. Now that is quite a common thing across the VW range, but because this is a VW Alltrack, if I press that again, you have an off-road mode, and that is essentially an all-track version of the all-road, of course, and it will put on your hill descent control, it will limit your traction control to allow the wheels to spin should you want them to, and it all becomes a little bit more restricted in terms of your speed, but your abilities and your capabilities of the car will kind of heighten themselves to kind of be adapting to the environment of which you're in, which is quite a cool thing to have. I mean, I've not necessarily taken it off-road, but I imagine it's very similar to the Audi all-road systems, because again, they all use the same kind of systems on themselves within the VW group, which is by no means a slight. They're very good systems, I'd imagine it would be very, very capable off-road. It is 184 brake horsepower being produced from this 2-litre turbo diesel, which is plenty. I mean, that is the same of what the Golf GTD was that I just sold. And of course, the Golf GTD looks a little bit more sporty aesthetically wise, so had the bigger wheels with the lower profile tyres, had different kind of front splitters, and didn't obviously have the trims around the wheel arches and stuff, so it looked quite sporty. But this is by no means any kind of slowpoke. So just coming up towards a hill here, might hang back a minute. I'm actually following a VW Passat, but I'll let him go on. And then if I put my foot down, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not like performance car quick, but it's certainly not slow, certainly enough for what I would want it to do. And it also gives you a good amount of economy as well. So on these country roads that we've been driving, it's a lot of hills, turns and terrible potholes with slow drivers, fast drivers, whatever you want to call it. And I'm averaging 41.6 miles to the gallon, which I thought was quite impressive. It'll probably go up a little bit more if I didn't have these winter tyres on. As I say, they're the Michelin Crossfats on these ones here at the moment. Yeah, if I didn't have those, if I just had the ordinary road going tyre, you might get a little bit more of an MPG on there. But again, can't complain for the size of car that it is, the practicality that it gives me, and it's also very, very comfortable. It rides that slightly bit higher than an ordinary Golf, handles the bumps that little bit better, and it is also the 4Motion, which is their 4-wheel drive version. So yeah, no complaints from me in terms of the engine and gearbox setup. I think the 4Motion is very, very clever, and also riding a little bit higher. I like the fact it's a bit of a rarity as well. You don't see many of these cars around. I think it's quite smart. You've got plenty of room in the back for rear passengers. The boot's of a decent size because of course it's the estate variant, which all of the Alltracks, they are all estates, which again, great news for anyone looking for a bit of practicality. But yeah, as I say, they're just a bit of a rarity. They look quite smart. This one here is in the Tornado Red on the exterior with those upgraded lights and the aesthetics of the car. I think, yeah, it fits well within this kind of rural side that I live in. And yeah, I'm really quite impressed. In terms of a road tax at the moment, I think it's about £135 a year to tax, so certainly nothing too horrendous. And yeah, it's just a pleasant place to be. It's minimalist. I've got all the modern gadgets that I would realistically want from a vehicle. The sound system's really quite good, and all very intuitive, all easy to use. very typical VW and German side of things. It feels very solid. It's not the most imaginative car, it's not the quickest thing in the world, but you do know that when you get into it, you're going to get to where you want to get to in reasonable comfort and reasonable safety standards. So yeah, really quite enjoyed driving it over the last couple of days. I'd like to think it wouldn't be around for long just because of what the rarity of the vehicle is. But if you've got one, certainly let me know, or if you've never seen one before, again, let me know. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and of course give the video a thumbs up. And now that I'm actually moving showrooms and that's all kind of put to bed, I'm hoping to do a few more of these, certainly maybe one a week or bi-weekly, and I hope that you subscribe to the channel and join me for those videos. Thanks very much. I'll see you for the next one.